Okay, so before we start off the video, the video you're about to see is really off the dome, and I believe I mentioned that towards the beginning. I've been running out of free time a lot more frequently lately, but I did want to get a new CD part out because it's been a little bit of a hassle putting things on the turntable as of late. But we will be returning to what I normally do, which is listening to all of the albums prior to actually making a video on them. What's up? So I'm back with a new video, and I'm actually going to be talking about CDs this time. Insert CDs nuts joke here, whatever, I don't fucking give a shit. Before we get into the music though, I'd just like to point out that I just got this. This is a T-Virus copy from the Resident Evil movies directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. And yes, I know those movies are fucking terrible. I'd say minus the first one. First one's alright, but like, dude, I love those movies so much. They're so fucking cheesy. I had to get this, and I'm a huge Resident Evil fanboy, so had to cop it. And if you're wondering what we're listening to in the background, it is Panopticon with Social Disservices. I'm actually going to be talking about this in the next vinyl video. I need a little bit more time to kind of digest it. Right. And a lot of this stuff is going to be off the dome. I did do some research before this video because it is incredibly valuable to be able to do the research. However, a lot of this music I haven't listened to in a bit. Purely because, again, my vinyl setup does not currently support CD playing whatsoever. But a lot of my CDs I do remember by heart. My old car had a CD player. Car before that had a CD player. And a lot of these I've had since I had my old car. So it'll be a lot easier to kind of go through. And some of these I've just kind of, either grew up listening to or I listened to ad nauseum because I put them on my computer, played that while I was doing schoolwork, so on and so forth. But you guys get the point. First one we're talking about is footage of a Yeti with Purging the Human Condition. These guys are a deathcore band from Queens, New York. There's the inside. And this is their EP put out in 2016 through Chugcore. Sean is a big fan of these dudes, and he actually reviewed this EP, I don't even know how long ago. I'm assuming it was probably in 2016, if I had to take a wild guess. So if you'd like more detail, I highly recommend going to his channel, giving that video some love. Doesn't really matter how old it is. A review is still a review. From what I remember about this album, it is pretty fucking decent. It's certainly not... It kind of... For me, it reminds me a lot of the Acacia Strain. And I know Vincent Bennett might shoot me for saying that because we're not a deathcore band, but Vincent's a prick anyway, fuck him. Again, this album's pretty fucking decent. It doesn't stray too far off the beaten path, but it keeps things interesting enough for me to be confident enough in recommending this. It's heavy, it's aggressive, just kind of the way that you'd expect deathcore to be. And honestly, there's not too terribly much more I can say about it. It is an EP after all. There's not a whole lot of packaging to show off. Not a whole lot that comes with it either. But again, I'd say check them out. The song Hellgate, I would skip if you're like me and you're not a big fan of deathcore instrumentals. I don't remember it being really particularly anything to write home about, but I mean, fuck's sake, anything's gonna be more interesting than a Rings of Saturn instrumental. So, yeah, check them out if you haven't. Show these guys some fucking love. I would love to see them actually put something out, because as far as I'm aware, this is the most recent thing that they've released, and it's been 7 years since they put something out, and I'd like to see them come back. I'd probably give it some fucking attention. Be the first time in a while that just straight deathcore is interested in me at all. Check them out. That is footage of a Yeti with Purging the Human Condition. Next on the chopping block, we've got George Colias with Invictus. This was his 2015 album put out through Season of Mist. And I'm not gonna lie, I bought this pretty much purely off of, you can see Pinhead back there, and hey, recording. I bought this purely based off of the recommendation of one Atticus the Death Metaler here on YouTube, as well as Infidel Amsterdam. And again, from what I remember about this album, it's decent tech death. I'm not, if you don't know who George Colias is, I'd be kind of surprised considering that he's from Nile, and Nile is one of the largest names in pretty much all of tech death and death metal in general. Greek dude, and I think he actually currently holds the world record for fastest double kick in drumming. I could be wrong on that, but he's a skilled ass drummer, and apparently he does all the instruments on this thing too. Again, this is just passable tech death from what I remember. I used to really be in love with this album, but I probably haven't listened to it properly since 2016, 2017. That doesn't take away from the fact that I still think you should check this out. I'm not going to be confident in saying that you should, but I mean, dude, if you like tech death and you know who George Colias is and somehow missed this, dude, check it out. I sincerely think you'd be missing out on something that you really like. But yeah, like I said, there's not really much to talk about with CDs. It's just kind of hard to stretch it. Yeah. But anyway, George Colias with Invictus. Alright, next up we've got Ghost with Meliora. If you don't know who Ghost is... What? Yeah, so this is their album from 2015, and I didn't show off the inside. There you go. This was probably one of the records, LPs, albums, whatever the hell, that I listened to the most in 2015, honestly. My ex Amanda and our song was actually Cerise. Looking back on it, it's still a fucking great album. It really, for me, it blends all of the old parts of Opus Eponymous with all the super, like, 60s, 70s pop cheesiness of Infesting Your Mom. Love you, Patrick. It's everything I really wanted in a Ghost album, besides, you know, a return to Opus Eponymous. There's not really much I can say about Ghost that hasn't been said to death anywhere. They are an internationally syndicated band going on tours with fucking Iron Maiden and stuff. They've got lore for Papa Emeritus, which is so fucking stupid, dude. Like, we please just stick to, like, oh, hey, we switched out Papa Emeritus with Cardinal Copia. Okay, now it's back to Papa Emeritus again. I listened to the new Ghost album, and it is literally one of the most boring fucking things I've ever willingly put myself through. Everything that I disliked about Prequel is intensified on whatever the hell the new album is. I think it's Impera. It's not good. It's definitely not Meliora. I took the booklet out because there's things I want to show in here. It's definitely not Meliora, definitely not Infesting Your Mom, and for sure not Opus Eponymous, dude. It's boring as sin. It's bad, and I do not recommend you go check it out. Spare yourselves. Do yourselves a favor I didn't do for myself. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to show inside of here, and I believe I showed this off with the LP, because I do have this on both the formats I give a fuck about, is all of the cool-ass artwork for each song. I don't know who did the artwork. I didn't do that much research, but all this stuff is pretty fucking sweet. There you go. There's Papa and the Ghouls, Papa 3 specifically. Least favorite of the Papas that I know and care about. For the number 1 is always going to be Papa Emeritus number 2. There's more. And then there's Radius in Absentia. Yeah, again, I'd go into more detail, but you guys should really know who Ghost is, what Ghost is about. And I'm not going to go in... I didn't do the research for what specific pressing this is or who put it out, because, I mean, for fuck's sake, you can get this CD at FYE for, like, I'm assuming $15, since FYE is overpriced as hell nowadays, but you can get this CD at a fucking FYE and Walmart and Target, literally anywhere you fucking go. That should really tell you all you need to know. I do recommend this primarily if you're gonna start with Ghost. Do not start with Opus Eponymous, because then all you're gonna be is just flat disappointed, because much in the way that Slipknot, my favorite album from them is .5 The Great Chapter. Objectively speaking, their best album is Iowa. And the same kind of goes for Ghost. My favorite is Meliora, but I think objectively speaking, Opus Eponymous is probably their best. There's some really catchy fucking hooks on this thing, and you need to check it out if for some reason you haven't. Yeah, this is Ghost with Meliora. Alright, next that I'm going to be talking about is Graham Belial's Key with Goat of a Thousand Young and Triumph from the Hordes. Graham Belial's Key, if you don't know, is basically the Motorhead of black metal, wherein the riffs are fucking great. I do not care about their shit. I really do not. This is a very nice media book, obviously. They're like, but where I was going is that they are the Motorhead of black metal. They never put out a bad release, pretty much, period. And whoever the hell their vocalist was for Hell's Head Bash Part 2 is like the Lemmy of fucking black metal, dude. The riffs on here are fucking great. It's not nearly as good as it is on like Judea Beast Assassination or Koshrod or Mocking the Philanthropist, but that's like the perfect trifecta of fucking albums. It's much in the same way like Argo Slint is like a riff machine, and Graham Belial's Key is literally just the black metal version of the death metal Argo Slint. Highly recommend you guys check this out. I think you get this CD for fairly cheap. If you don't know, Goat of a Thousand Young and Triumph of the Hordes are the first two demos that GBK ever did. Yeah, put out through World Terror Committee. You got the back there. You've got alternative unused intros, instrumental demo versions. Again, I just really recommend you check these guys out. You will not be disappointed. The music in any GBK release really is super bouncy, it's fun, and it's like, I won't say prideful, but it's like infectious, and funky is the wrong word, but that's the word I'm going to use because I can't think of something to replace funky. Again, I recommend you get this CD. I think this is the only format that this came out on, actually. It comes with a bunch of like old interviews and shit about the earlier days of the band. It's honestly just worth having, honestly. This one was a gift from my uncle, because he thought there was an LP, and it's like, why the hell do I want a CD? I only have basically same setup that I do, but his is a lot nicer. But yeah, I think you can get this for fairly cheap. I think it was no more than like $30 max on Discogs that it's ever sold for. If you can get it through like World Terror Committee or something else, recommend you do it. Check it out. Graham Belial's Key with Goat of a Thousand Young and Triumph of the Hordes. Alright, next on the chopping block, I'm probably going to get crucified from the more cult people in my audience, if you're even still here. Green Day with 21st Century Breakdown, their album from 2009. I bought this shit when I was 15, so like 2012, I think. I think more than anything, I was just kind of eager to get new music into my collection. If you don't know who Green Day is, you probably quite literally been like living under a fucking rock. They were on top of the world when they released American Idiot, which in my opinion is a much, much better album. It drags on for far less time than this does. And yeah, basically, long story short, they're a fucking pop punk band. Billy Joe Dickstrong is like almost 50 and still screaming about "fuck the system," even though we're millionaires. Fuck the system, you guys. Revolution Radio, father of all motherfuckers. I don't know, just Green Day nowadays just seems so fucking trite and childish to me. There's some decent enough songs on here. 21 Guns, obviously everybody fucking knows 21 Guns. That's like asking somebody if they've heard American Idiot or Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Viva La Gloria, I think Christian's Inferno, East Jesus Nowhere. Yeah, there's really not much that I can fucking say about this. It's fucking Green Day. Who cares who put it out? Who cares, like, literally anything? Again, got this when I was 15, so there's not much I can go into about it. I didn't really grow up with this. Like I said, I much more grew up on American Idiot, but there's one part of American Idiot that I will never, ever forget. That was dumb as hell, but again, I cannot stress this enough. Green Day, especially in like 04 and what the fuck was this, 09? Especially then, like when emo and scene kids were still like heavily fucking with Green Day, dude. It was some of the funniest shit. And it's sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I mean this. Go check out the fucking beginning of the music video to Jesus of Suburbia. It's like fucking 12 minutes long. You do not need to sit through the whole thing. Just watch the drama at the start of it. It is so stupid. I promise you won't regret it. It's funny as fuck. Anyway, yeah, Green Day, 21st Century Breakdown, fuck off.
I've been drawn in this undying love.
Alright, next up is something I'm going to be a lot more passionate about talking about. This is Haste the Day with Dreamer. And for the record, this is their best album. Go fuck yourself. I am going to get really aggressive about that because I sincerely think that this is their best album. Because it is. Don't get me wrong, Pressure the Hinges, Attack of the Wolf King, those are decent. When Everything Falls, again, also decent. But dude, this album really is just so fucking perfect. This is the inside of the booklet. You got art through it, then you got lyrics, obviously, and then because I was a dumbass, and I'm sure if you go back on my old videos, you'll see, like, the wall of, like, booklets and shit that I had taped up because I was a stupid kid. Yeah, this is, again, the best album that they ever did whatsoever. This is their 2008 album put out through Solid State Records. Obviously, they are a Christian metalcore band. And I grew up listening to this album, so I am very, very heavily biased. But this is such a pleasant departure from what Dreamer, or from what their old albums were, put onto Dreamer. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that, like, I think by Dreamer, a decent chunk of the old members had left at that point for one reason or another. I think a lot of it had to do with, like, conflicting faith or some other shit I don't really care about. 68 Madman and An Adult Tree, Invoke Reform, Sons of the Fallen Nation. Sons of a Fallen Nation. Labyrinth is such a depressing ass song, but in such a good way. It's like, it's very bleak outlook. And at the ending line, all your friends are dead and gone, and you've got nothing to lose. That shit has resonated with me to this day. And then Autumn is a very, like, beautiful acoustic song to send off the album to. This is great fucking second wave metalcore. There's no other fucking way that I can put it, guys. Honest to God. One thing I didn't mention, though, and I know I've talked about Haste the Day before on this channel, however long ago, they are a band from Carmel, Indiana. And this is probably the single greatest thing besides Lain and I, which, by the way, there's the ring. I don't think I showed it off in the last video. These guys are probably the single greatest thing to come out of Indiana. That includes, I'm putting them above Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, and Guns N' Roses. Yeah, again, check this shit out, dude. This, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I mean it, is fantastic second wave metalcore. This whole album is worth listening to. And you need to get some of this shit in your life, dude. This is Haste the Day with Dreamer. Alright, and next up, we got Haste the Day with Coward. This is one that I am unfortunately much less passionate about. This is their 2015 release, also through Solid State Records. The back is very boring. The inside of here is just the guys and then like sticks and shit. There's not really a whole lot for me to talk about with this one. Again, 2015, I believe they funded this through Indiegogo. The booklet, even, like, I needed to show this off. The booklet is boring as hell. It's literally just lyrics. Like, literally no art on the inside whatsoever. There's no variety. It's just, like, fuck you lyrics, which, granted, I've never put out a CD or an album of any variety before, and I'm sure it's very expensive, but, like, I don't know. For the package that this comes in, and for the music that's on here, I'm actually kind of disappointed that my dad and I spent money on this, honestly, and I really, really hate to say that, because Haste the Day was a really good metalcore band, second wave metalcore band. Lapses into the generic for sure on their earlier shit prior to Dreamer, but then with Dreamer and Attack of the Wolf King, they kind of hit like a stride. Attack of the Wolf King I remember a lot less of, but it was still good stuff. This, on the other hand, is like very meh, kind of between second and third wave metalcore. It's like really, I hesitate to even call it metalcore really. It's just kind of soft. There's not much to fucking talk about with this. All the members, past and present, came together and put this out. And I understand that people like change what they want to make as far as music goes, but I almost kind of wish that Haste the Day had just stayed dead, honestly, because they had such a great lineup of music, and then they came back and just shot themselves in the foot. It's been 8 years since I've even heard anything about them, so that should kind of say something about this album, as much as I hate to say it. I don't know, man. You might like it more than I do if you kind of like third wave metalcore more than I do. I find third wave metalcore to be atrocious in almost every situation. But yeah, I don't know, check it out. Maybe you'll like it based on the sound clip. Maybe you won't. That's not really up to me. That's Haste the Day with Coward. Alright, and next we've got Immortal with Sons of Northern Darkness Deluxe Edition. This is another situation where I really shouldn't be introducing anybody to anything. Immortal is one of, if not the best known band in black metal, or at least they were at a certain point, and for good fucking reason. This is not a great example of that, though. If you remember way, way back in the day, and this is unfortunately something that'll stick out in my brain probably for as long as I live, I said that, well, people consider this to be their coldest album, and I can kind of see why. No. Bad past, Austin. That was fucking Blizzard Beasts. I don't know what in God's name I had in my head when I said that Sons of Northern Darkness was one of their coldest releases, because it isn't. It's kind of blah, mellow death, or mellow black, my apologies. There's not really a whole lot to talk about. If I didn't mention it, this is their O2 release, and I didn't watch the Live at BB King's thing purely because, like, I've got other shit to, like, do/watch. There's not much to fucking talk about with it. This is another kind of, like, generic situation where, I mean, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, it's just not very interesting, and it's not Damned in Black. I can say that much. The title track, I guess, is pretty good. Demonium and My Kingdom Cold, and I think Antarctica I also enjoyed. Again, this is another situation where it's been literally forever since I've listened to it. But at the end of the day, it's Immortal, and it's not Abbott solo, so you can only go so wrong with it. Unless it's Damned in Black, fuck that album. Yeah, check it out. If you don't know Immortal, don't start with this album. If you want good mellow black, absolutely go with At the Heart of Winter. That is their best mellow black. I would still always recommend To Hell and Back that you start with Pure Holocaust, though. Pure Holocaust is objectively their best album. Yeah, Immortal, Sons of Northern Darkness. Alright, now on to a much better Immortal album, and the next one, after Sons of Northern Darkness, this is Immortal with All Shall Fall. This is much better Mellow Black. It's a little bit more memorable, definitely not isn't nearly as good as the new one by any stretch of the fucking imagination. If you listen to this and then you listen to the new one, Northern Chaos Gods, you can tell that Abbott was the one who wanted to take Immortal in a much more commercial and melodic direction, whereas Horg and Demonaz were the ones who wanted to take Immortal kind of back to like what they got known for to begin with, which was just making cold ass fucking black metal. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is decent mellow black. It's definitely not the best I've heard or my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but it's alright. Yeah, There's a Spine put out the Nuclear Blast. It's their release from 2009, and this is the last thing that they put out until 2018, if I'm not mistaken. There used to be also a sticker on here that actually had Immortal and All Shall Fall on the bottom. Forget what happened to it. I think I tried to peel it off because I thought it was something and it fell off, but yeah, that's not really all that important. Yeah, there's not really much else to say about it. If you know Immortal, you know Immortal, and if you know later Immortal, you know this album, because this is like probably their best known shit. This is the last release prior to the Seventh Day Blashirk, and yeah, check it out if you haven't. For some reason, this is Immortal with All Shall Fall. Moving on to some mellow death, believe it or not, this is Immortal Souls with Winterreich. This is their third album, put out in 2007. Again, mellow death, it's not something I'm nearly as into now as I am literally almost anything else, and it's not really something I go back to revisit. I believe I bought this in 2015 when I'm still living with my parents and finding acceptable music that I could play around my mom and dad. Because these guys are a Christian band, but again, if you've been on this channel for any length of time, don't let that discourage you from listening to the music. That doesn't change a fucking thing. Lyrics shouldn't really mean shit, especially if you're somebody who vibes with something like GBK, especially if you're somebody who vibes with anything Burzum's ever done, not even lyrically, but just like, if you're like, yeah, Varg is such a great musician, you have no right to complain about Christian lyrics in music, and I will die on that hill. Anyway, it's passable mellow death. It's definitely something that you kind of want to introduce somebody with, because it's kind of tame, especially this album. There's not a lot happening on here. The next one that I'm going to be talking about is much better. Night Frost, Fear Reaper, Color of My Sky, and the ending song Winterreich, from what I remember, there's these really cheesy, like, they're not even like necessarily sung vocals, they're Winterreich. It's corny as fuck. So again, this might not be the best Immortal Souls album. It definitely isn't fucking whatever the hell their new thing was from 2015. I listened to that maybe once, and I never went back to it, from a mixture of finding new music to get into, and also it just did not pique my interest whatsoever. But regardless, this is decent enough. It's passable mellow death. It's definitely something to introduce to somebody. If you've got like a cousin or something and their parents are Christian but they really want to get into metal, this is something to introduce them to. They're from Finland, and yeah, there's not much else to say about this album. Again, this one I have much less memories with than I do with the next one I'm going to be talking about, but again, it's decent enough. Check it out if you're into mellow death. You might like it quite a bit. This is Immortal Souls with Winterreich. Like I said, next up, Immortal Souls with 4 Requiem for the Art of Death. This is much better melodeath, much more interesting melodeath. There's still not much to go into, and for the record, this and Winter Reichford both put out through Face Down Records. This is their 2011 release. Yeah, there's, again, not much to go into. The music video and the tapping part for Nuclear Winter really held my attention for a long time. There's better songs in here for sure. Reek of Rotting Rye, like I said, Nuclear Winter, Absolution, Evil Believer, and I believe Thoughts of Desolation are all pretty decent. Again, a lot of this is off the top of my dome. This is one that I've revisited a lot more frequently. And again, if you're into melodeath at all, I recommend you check it out. You never fucking know. This is probably my favorite artwork that they ever did, though, because that's, like, sufficiently spooky. Again, what else am I supposed to go into? I literally just talked about their last album and said that this one's better because it is. It's more memorable. It's like they actually developed as a band when they put this out. And I'd also like to point out one last time for posterity, these guys look like such huge dorks. And if you saw the music video, they look like dorks in that too. But check it out. Again, you might be totally into it, and it might be something you want to recommend to somebody. I'm just not that huge into melodeath anymore. This is Immortal Souls with 4, Requiem for the Art of Death. Alright, last band I'm going to talk about, but second to last album I'm going to talk about is Impending Doom. This one is The Serpent Servant. This is their 09 release through Face Down Records, same as Immortal Souls. This is decent deathcore, yeah. This is decent deathcore. It's certainly not the thing that I reach for the most if I'm going to listen to Impending Doom. That would go to The Wretched and Godless Part 2, because god damn, or Death Will Reign, both are, in my opinion, superior albums in every stretch of the imagination. Again, this is another fucking Christian band. If you know anything about deathcore, you know that Impending Doom is a Christian band. That's a fucking given. If you would ask me in 2015 what my ranking for Impending Doom albums was, it probably would have been Death Will Reign, Baptized in Filth, The Serpent Servant, There Will Be Violence, and then Nail Dead Risen, only because I was not a huge fan of Slam in 2015. Nowadays, if you were to ask me, it would be number 1, absolutely, The Sin and Doom of Godless Men, Volume 2. I believe I fucked it up the first time. Then Death Will Reign, then Baptized in Filth, then Serpent Servant, then Nail Dead Risen, and then There Will Be Violence. Nothing that Impending Doom has put out has ever been bad, per se. I know Brooke Reeves isn't necessarily fond of his vocal performance on There Will Be Violence, but it's never been bad, right? If you're okay with Impending Doom, after this, specifically There Will Be Violence and Baptized in Filth, it does kind of get more metalcore-y, but that doesn't detract from the fact that it's still, like, heavy as shit. The Serpent Servant, the title song, Storming the Gates of Hell, More Than Conquerors, the breakdown of that is so infectiously good. Just the down, like, it, I cannot explain to you how often that particular breakdown has been stuck in my head on multiple different occasions. In the House of Mourning is alright. Avoid Revival America, because it's like, it's not even really harmonic dissonance, it's kind of, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like the same 5 notes kind of played over and over and over again, which, if you remember, is why I hate Bartzabel, the Behemoth song, so much. And then Brooke Reeves going, Revival America. It's stupid as fuck. But again, this album's pretty good. I recommend you check it out, especially if you're into deathcore and you have avoided Impending Doom for some reason. Check this shit out. It's good. But before anything, Sin and Doom of Godless Men Part 2, and then come back to this, because these are good-ass deathcore pieces, and if you're avoiding them because of the whole Christian thing, you're stupid. Impending Doom, The Serpent Servant. And then the last album I'm going to be talking about is Impending Doom with Baptized in Filth. And I don't believe I mentioned this, but they're a band from California, which I don't know. It surprises me that Brooke Reeves was from California at all. I don't know too terribly much about that, so I could be wrong. This album is their 2012 release put up through E1 Entertainment. And if I know anything about E1 Entertainment, it's that after that fucking vocal cover I did for Murderer, it's that the sound clip in this for probably both these songs is going to be copyrighted. Yay. But whatever, I don't do this shit for money. Again, this is pretty fucking decent. If you don't mind the more metalcore-y side of shit, I still really think you should fucking check this out, even regardless. Murderer is a really good song. For the Wicked. Deceiver is like a legitimately kind of spooky song, and especially the bridge to the final part of the song, dead body stacked 10 feet tall. That shit is so fucking good, and that is ridiculously heavy. My Light Unseen I really liked in the past purely because it had Ryan Clark on it. I haven't listened to that song in God knows how long. The rest of this album I have actually listened to before. The title track as well is pretty fucking good. This inside is really boring. You do have the repentagram in there. There's the back of it. Here's the spine. Yeah, again, if you don't mind the more metalcore-y side of Impending Doom, check this shit out. It's really fucking good. Impending Doom with Baptized in Filth. And that is it for this CD part, guys. I don't know what part it is. Future Austin will obviously know. He has to title the fucking thing. I don't know when I'm going to be back to the next CD bit, because again, it is more difficult for me, at least emotionally, to get through those because I like using my turntable. But I will eventually put out the next part to this. Vinyl 8 will be coming out relatively soon-ish. I can't make any promises, but it's not going to be like a month from now. I can promise you that much. Yeah, deuces.